Imagine it's July 2nd, 1863, around 5 p.m. You're standing in the peach orchard at Gettysburg, and the air is a toxic fog of gunpowder and screams. To your left and right, the Union line is collapsing under a vulnerable angle, caught in the crossfire of Confederate divisions. Men are falling in some of the most intense hand-to-hand combat of the entire war. But in the middle of this turbulence, you see something that shouldn't be there, a figure on horseback weaving through the chaos. She isn't carrying a musket. She's wearing 2 pistols tucked into her belt. Her long wool skirts are shredded, not from age, but from the bullets that have riddled them as she leans down to offer water and dress the wounds of the dying. The men of the 3rd Michigan Infantry don't see a civilian, they see a fellow soldier. They call her Gentle Annie. In this episode, we're looking at the Battle of Gettysburg and an unknown hero at the peach orchard, one of the deadliest areas of the whole battle. We'll explore why she stayed even after her husband deserted the cause, how she managed to be cool and self-possessed under fire, and why she eventually earned a final resting place in the most hallowed ground in America, Arlington National Cemetery. Welcome to Talk with History. One filmmaker, one historian, leading history-inspired world travels for the curious, the history lovers, and the explorer in us all. All right, Jen. So it's been a little bit since we've recorded. You just got back from a couple weeks traveling with American Cruise Lines. While you were gone, we got one more 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.
Whoa.
So very happy about that.
Thank you.
So we just need one more to get 50, which actually, believe it or not, is harder than it looks. So those podcasts have lots of 5-star reviews. That is not an easy thing to do because people just take their time in providing 5-star reviews. So if you're listening and you're listening on Apple Podcasts, I would appreciate it if you took 10 seconds, left us a 5-star review. You can comment, you can write a review if you want, or you can just drop 5 stars and then you're out. So
Thank you.
Anna Etheridge. Now, this was something, I think you've actually talked about her for quite a while, but you've wanted to do her story for quite a while.
Yes.
Because she was there for, shockingly, the whole war. I mean, she was there from the beginning all the way to the very end. So tell us about Anna Etheridge and kind of what she became known for.
So you have to realize that, we've talked about women in the Civil War. We've used that lens before. Yep. We did that at Bull Run.
Yep.
And we've talked about women who fought and who dressed up as men. And there's no way to accurately know that number because some women were able to do it and never be outed. And some women were. But we hit on some women who were in support roles. Claire Barton.
Yep.
This is kind of a mesh of the two. There were a couple women, like a handful, who were on the battlefield during the battle dressed as a woman. And that's why we wanted to tell her story because Anna Etheridge was one of those women who was at some of the bloodiest battles of the Civil War. And she was there from the beginning to the end, wore her skirts, even at one point gets injured, gets shot in the hand, and she still provides care for the men. She is never afraid. She keeps fighting. She even will, when men start to desert and she'll call them cowards and try to encourage them to get back out there. So she's just a very unique person. And that's why we want to tell her story.
Yeah. So one of the things as I was making this video the other day that I realized about her is, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, she joined because her husband joined. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't say because, she joined with her husband.
Yes.
But from the very beginning, she was from the very beginning of the war, 1861, all the way through, she was at Appomattox. Her husband left somewhere in between there. Again, you'll kind of give us the details in a second. But what I realized that this isn't a story about, we kind of categorize it as a story about a woman, but it's really a story about a soldier.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's a story about a soldier who was there for the whole war for 4 years. Think about World War II. We were in World War II for 4 years. Mm-hmm. She left Michigan and she didn't start coming back home until after Appomattox.
Yes.
Right? So that's one of the things that I want people when you're hearing about what we're going to talk about here in just a second about, Gentle Annie, she was in it right there with the rest of her Michigan, brothers and sisters.
Yeah, she wouldn't leave them. And she was devoted to her cause, and she was devoted to being with them and never letting them know they were alone. So she's with them. If they're fighting, she's there with them. So you got to give her a lot of credit for her staying power and for her loyalty.
Yeah, and she was young.
She was very young. So she's born May 3rd, 1839 in Michigan. She's married in 1860. So she's about 19.
Okay.
And she marries her first husband, James Etheridge. That's where she gets the name. And at the outbreak of the Civil War, he enlists in the 2nd Michigan. And then she will serve with him as a laundress. So a lot of women, if they didn't have children to stay home, they would go with their husbands because
their husband's getting paid by the army.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They don't drink it away. Yeah. Make sure you're getting paid. And she takes care of him because who's washing clothes for these men? Who's mending their uniforms? Who's tending to them when they're sick? Who is setting up camp, breaking down camp, and cooking? And so that's kind of how she starts. Now, she has some nursing experience. She has cared for her sick father at the end of his life before the war. She also worked in a hospital. The hospital had poor patient care, and she had attempted to improve that. So she already has some understanding of medicine and patient care. And of course, when she first joins, before they see battle, she's a laundress. When they start to see battle, that nursing part of her takes over.
Yeah.
And her husband deserts very soon, though, within that first year. And so she'll go to the 3rd Michigan Regiment, and then she'll go to the 5th Michigan Regiment. And she stays with them the entire time.
And that's what I thought was so incredible because, again, it's one of those things you can learn about it in a history book, right? And I'm sure her name is somewhere in a history book. But once you get out there and you're at Gettysburg, like we were, just a little while ago, because we kind of had a series of Gettysburg videos here, and this is the last one in that series for a little bit, you realize like she's leaving Michigan and traveling by horse and walking for the next 4 years, right?
Yes.
Sleeping in tents and following the soldiers for the next 4 years. It's really incredible what she did and what other women like her did. And she was kind of the embodiment of what there was numerous women doing. And that was one of the cool things is in the video, there is like some depiction of her on a horse. And it's not a modern day depiction. This was a picture from back then. She was getting some recognition.
Yes. And there is actual statements from men who were there seeing her on the horse and seeing her undaunted, riding out, asking questions, and then riding back into battle. So it's General Philip Kearny who actually sees her caring for wounded men during the Peninsula Campaign. And that is in March to July of 1862. And he adopts her into the 3rd Corps. He's going to provide her with the horse. He's going to provide her with the saddle, sergeant's pay. He's going to give her a riding habit and sergeant chevron stripes.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
So that's why if you see her in uniform and she has the sergeant's chevron stripes, he provides her with all of that.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't get that.
And that's because he sees her in the middle of the battle caring for wounded men in the moment, which, if you can imagine, would probably add to their longevity and also add to them wanting to stay in the fight, knowing they weren't going to lay there and suffer.
Well, and let's kind of put the modern day lens on it. Today, we've got combat medics. Their job is to be trained to go out there during fighting, right? They're sitting just behind the guys that are doing the shooting, and they're doing that. But that's also because a lot of that was built up based on what folks like Anna Etheridge is doing.
Yes.
That wasn't as common back then. The more common thing would be once the fighting is done, I go out and find somebody who's still alive to see if I can save them.
Yes. And so that would put fear in people. Why would I fight like that if I know that my life is so expendable?
Yeah.
So it's knowing that there's a person with you who's there in the moment if you get hurt, which is going to tend to you right away, which is going to increase your chances of survival.
Yeah.
It leads you to go, I'm not a coward. I'm going to fight. My life matters. Someone is here to support me, and they make sure that she is represented and taken care of.
So I've told this story, and I don't know if we've ever told this story on the podcast. So this is the story And this is kind of this Anna Etheridge and the bravery and the confidence that she instilled in her Michigan infantry, fellow soldiers, is similar to an experience that you had. So you've told this story before where how you decided that you weren't going to fly jets, you were going to fly helicopters. And I'll keep it short for our audience. And one of these days I'll get Jen to kind of tell the full story. But essentially when she was a midshipman, she was determined to fly jets. She went to a carrier, kind of stuck up for herself, got to fly in a jet. She was flying off the carrier in an F-14, full-blown Top Gun, midshipman Mitchell. Like you couldn't be closer to Maverick, if you tried. So you were determined. You were like, that's it. I'm going to fly jets. And you would have, right? Yeah, had you wanted to. But a couple days later, for our audience, Jen was going out on kind of some routine, more midshipman training. And so they said, hey, you're going to hop in this helicopter since you want to be a pilot. This helicopter is going to do basically search and rescue mission. So their job is to be up in the air while aircraft are taking on and off in case something happens. It's very rare that it does. However, when you were up in the air that day, something did happen. 2 aircraft hit each other, went in the water.
Mm-hmm. One made it back to the carrier.
One made it back to the carrier. The other one, 2 ejected. I think 1 died. The other guy broke his leg from the ejection seat, went into the water. So your helicopter, here you are, a midshipman.
Yes.
In the helicopter, dressed just like the rest of the air crew.
Yes.
And so they jump in the water. The search and rescue, the SAR swimmer picks them up out of the water. And here's Jen sitting there helping pull this guy into the helo to pull this guy out of the water. He's screaming because his leg's broken 90 degrees the wrong direction. But then if memory serves, he looks at you and he says, when I heard the rotors, I knew I was going to be okay.
Yep.
And that right there, there's multiple things. You decided, one, I'm not going to fly jets. I'm going to fly helicopters.
Yes.
But what I tell when I was in recruiting, what I tell people is there's so much more behind that statement. It's not just the helicopter pilot that he's happy to see. It's because the helicopter pilot is there to get him to a medic, and there's a medic on the ship, and he has a whole support system. So when that jet pilot heard the rotors, he knew my whole support system is here. Very much like gentle Annie, Anna Etheridge. She's inspiring that bravery because the men of the 3rd Infantry from Michigan know that they have her support. And if you have that kind of support, you're going to be that much braver and fight that much harder.
Absolutely. And you got to think too, we just interviewed the director for Gettysburg 1863. And what was he adamant about when he made that? Young men. So these young men miss their mothers.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so they're getting injured and hurt and they don't have their mom there. But when they see a woman, just as a woman out there helping them, they feel cared for. Yeah. They feel like they matter. So her skirt was often torn by bullets, and she would still be out there. She armed with 2 pistols. She used them for her protection. She had saddlebags filled with medical supplies. She frequently rode to the front lines, aided all those wounded warriors. She embodied that ideal daughter of the Union. And it was just so brave and encouraged her men. They encouraged them to greater valor, that her superiors saw that in her. And even when she's injured, she's shot in the hand during a battle. It's not the Peach Orchard, but another battle. She doesn't even care for her hand. The soldiers witness blood coming from her hand as she's taking care of the other soldiers. And that is one of the reasons she gets the Kearney Cross. It's only one of 2 women. It's because of her selflessness to herself for her men, and that she's there the entire time. If they're serving, she's serving. And that is I think they really see her devotion and they want to thank her for her service.
Yeah.
So she's going to get a pension like all the other soldiers. She's going to get the Kearney Cross, and she's able to hold her head up high as a woman who served on the battlefield. And that's what we wanted to honor, because you don't see much of that in the Civil War.
Yeah. And it was one of those things too, when you're telling the story out there, the Peach Orchard is not big. Right. It's not a large part of the Gettysburg battlefield, but it's some of the deadliest, close in fighting, because was he General Dan Sickles at the time, made this huge mistake, right? He made this huge mistake kind of positioning his troops there, and they got basically closed in on both sides from the Confederates. So when I said in the intro, this is one of the, deadliest parts of the whole Gettysburg battle, that's not an exaggeration.
Oh, no. When the men of the 3rd Michigan were sent to fight at the Gettysburg Peach Orchard, and you do a good job setting it up, that Sickles got his men into a double-sided front.
Right.
They were being attacked from the right and the left because they kind of got themselves into like an angle, they call it. And one of the soldiers from the 116th Pennsylvania remembered seeing her. And he even writes in his testimony, a woman on horseback and in uniform galloped back from the line of the battle, asked for some information, and quickly returned to the front. She was a nurse of the 3rd Corps, Anna Etheridge, and directed the removal of the wounded. She was cool and self-possessed and did not seem to mind the fire. So there's actual testimony of her there on the Peach Orchard. And that's why I wanted to talk about her there, because if she's going right to the front, I take you right to that front, right to that angle. And that means she's not caring about all the bullets around her, because that's very close in battle there. And she's getting the men out. She's asking for where are the field hospitals here, what farms are being used as field hospitals, and she's getting them out and she's caring for them. And caring for her own safety, which there's not a lot of people who know her entire story. And again, will end her life and be buried with full veteran honors at Arlington National Cemetery.
Yeah, I think you said she lives to 1913.
Yes, 1913.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, in 1887, Congress approves an Army pension, $25 a month, the rest of her life. She lives to January 23rd, 1913. She'll die in D.C. at 73, and she's buried at Arlington with full military honors. So I wanted to tell her story, and because what we do on location, I wanted to take you to the Peach Orchard, and then I wanted to take you to the monument of the 3rd Michigan. And there's no mention of her at all. There's no depiction of a woman, because it talks about the men who fought and died there. But you have to know she had her hands on every one of those wounded and the men who passed there at the Peach Orchard from the 3rd Michigan, because that was her job.
I tell you what, just kind of, if there's anybody in the Gettysburg area that has a lot of money and wants a good idea for a monument that would be pretty unique, would be her on a horse. Because you always see generals on a horse, but putting someone like that on a horse at the Peach Orchard, I think would be a pretty cool nod and recognition to what she did in support of the 3rd Michigan. So just an idea for anybody that's listening out there.
I know, because she's only one of 2 women to receive the Kearney Cross. That was a medal reserved for those who are most distinguished themselves in battle. So many men got this. Only 2 women got it, and she's one of them.
Yeah.
It would be cool to have a monument to her. I don't even know, answer in the comments, is there a monument to a woman at Gettysburg? I don't think there's one at all.
You think about...
Women are depicted in the monuments as like angels and things. But.
Well, at the gravesite, what's her face?
Jenny Wade.
There's Jenny Wade, and then there's the pregnant...
and Elizabeth Thorne. But those are at the cemetery.
They're at the cemetery.
But not on the battlefield.
Not on the battlefield.
Even though the cemetery is probably the battlefield at one point. Yeah. But not like part of a regiment on a battlefield. It would be neat to have her.
That would be a cool one.
It would be.
There you go. You guys can... Our audience can take that and run with it.
I know, right?
Let us know if you guys figure out how to make that happen.
She was one of 20 women to join the 2nd Michigan Volunteer Infantry. She was a vivandier. She was a vivandier and more. And I just want people to understand, a vivandier is what people really understood women to be in battle. They understood these are women who are attached. They do the washing and their canteens. They bring the water and supplies and things like that. But she was more. She was a nurse, and she did that job as well. And because this is really new territory, think of Clara Barton kind of developing the Red Cross. This is new territory to women doing this. They don't really have a description for her. That's why she's so shocking to see on the battlefield. So she's more than just a vivandier. She's, did I say that right? Mm-hmm. So she is more than just a vivandier. She is a soldier, like you said, on the battlefield, a non-combatant, but a soldier still. So thank you, Anna Etheridge. Thank you for letting us tell your story. I hope you watch the video and get to see it. Some great cinematography from Scott at the Peach Orchard. Yeah, and you'll see some shots from Little Round Top as well. But if our podcast listeners are interested in a video version of this in Apple Podcasts,
feel free to reach out and let us know. You can see the video version on YouTube. But yeah, super fun. We got some very fun early morning Gettysburg cinematography in there.
Yep. After the war, her service is going to end with the 5th Michigan. And like many women, she's never paid for her service. And that's why she gets the sergeant pay, but she's never paid for the rest of her service. And then she doesn't get her pension until 1887. She'll eventually work for the United States Treasury Department. That's why she ends up in Washington, D.C. She'll have married for a 3rd time by that time. And then she'll end up in Arlington National Cemetery. But you might see the last name Hooks on some of her pictures, and that is her 3rd husband's name. So if you want to know more about her, there's definitely some websites devoted to her, but our video is a really great start. And yeah, let's get Anna Etheridge a statue.
Yeah, I think it'd be pretty cool. As we walk away from the peach orchard today, it's hard not to look back at the 3rd Michigan monument and imagine Anna Etheridge still there, standing her ground amidst the smoke of July 2nd. We often talk about the men of Gettysburg, but Anna reminds us that the front lines were held by anyone with the courage to stay. She wasn't just a witness to the war, she was a permanent fixture of it. From the opening chaos of Bull Run to the finality of Appomattox, even after her husband deserted the cause, Anna chose to remain with her Michigan unit, proving that her loyalty wasn't tied to a person, but to a purpose. Anna Etheridge didn't just fade into the footnotes of history. She was recognized by her peers with the Kearney Cross and eventually by her country with a congressional pension. And if you ever find yourself walking through the quiet rows of Arlington National Cemetery, look for the grave of the woman who was cool and self-possessed under fire, a true warrior buried in our nation's most hallowed ground. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.
This has been a Walk with History production. Talk with History is created and hosted by me, Scott Benny. Episode researched by Jennifer Benny. Check out the show notes for links and references mentioned in this episode. Talk with History is supported by our community at thehistoryroadtrip.com. Make sure you hit that follow button in that podcast player, and we'll talk to you next time.